Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My dear students, a great warm welcome to Milestone College. I'd like to congratulate all of you for having secured a seat in Milestone College. I hope everybody will enjoy the study with others curriculum activities is in Milestone College and have a beautiful campus in the city. I'm here with you, Murad Chaudhary, Senior Lecturer, Department of Agriculture Studies, Milestone College, Uttara, Dhaka. I'd like to extend this special congratulations and special welcome from the Department of Agriculture Studies. Wish you all the best. My dear students, let's go for today's online lecture.
Chapter 1 name is Agriculture of Bangladesh, and Section 1 Scope of Agriculture of Bangladesh. And today is the second lecture of this section. And today we are able to understand the topic, which is the field crop definition, characteristic and classification. Then horticulture crop definition, characteristics and classification. And then at last, difference between field crop and horticulture crop. Concepts of field crop. Basically, crop is two types. One is field crop and the other one is horticulture crop. So this is the field crop. So the field crop, which is generally grown on the vast area, that means large area, and can be grown in low, medium or high land, and crops are not individually taken care. And the example of these crops is pulse, like wild seed crops, fiber crops, sugar crops, green manure crops. So if you have a look, the picture is the example of the field crop. That means the large area and can be cultivated in low land, medium land and high land as well. Then the specific example of this field crop is like wheat, then rice. This type of crop is for field crop. Then oil seed crop like mustard, jute. This is all about called the field crop. And now the characteristics of field crop. So what is the characteristics of field crops? Uh, the characteristic of field crop is this uh, crop can be cultivated in lowland as well, like for example is rice crops, and you don't need to be take care the individual of single crops, like we take care the crop all together. For example is rice, wheat. And next is generally required less intensity of interculture operation. That means we don't need to interculture or culture operation is very focused or very intensively. That means altogether cultivate all to individual care and little bit less amount of intensive care. And generally all crops are become matured and thus to be harvested at a time, except cotton ball, like for rice field. When all the rice is matured, then you collect the rice all together. And for this crop you don't need to require any fence of the field. And then a low price at the onset of the season of crop harvesting. In that means when the crop is harvesting, that time the price is very low. That is why farmers are a little bit at loss on that time. Many field crops can be grown without irrigation. That means maximum we need to irrigate it, but sometimes some crop can be grown without irrigation. That is why it's called field crop. Then sometimes maximum crop is annual crops, but sometimes some crops exception is tea, is not annual crops but maximum is annual crops. That means you plant that crop, take the harvest the product, and the crop will be cut down. That will be the second time the crop will be not produced from that plant. That is why it is called annual crop. So wheel crop is maximum generally is annual crop except tea. And both risk and cost of production are higher than horticulture crop. That means cost of production is higher, like rice crops, jute, etc. Crops become usable after drying and threshing. So when the crops is producing, you cannot eat that one, or you cannot consume that one straight away. That is why you have to process that one. That means drying, threshing. After then you can get the product, and you can easily consume it. Crops plants are of short stature, is smaller canopy. That means the plant is not too much or large branches or leaf like rice, sugarcane, jute. So this is all about the characteristics of field crop. You can get questions like this for 2 marks. Explain the characteristics of field crops, or you can get a picture and then you have to identify that one and explain the characteristics of field crop. Now the classification of field crops. So what will be the classification of field crop? First one is grain or cereal crops. So what is the example of grain and cereal crops? Like rice, wheat, uh, maize. This is the example of maize crop, and this is the product of fruit maize crops. That means this is called grain or cereal crops. If you see the crop which is the grain inside, that is why it's called grain or cereal crop, and this is kind of field crop. Next one is pulse crops, all type of pulse like lentil, then mashkalai, mung bean, cowpea, cashew, all are in field crop. Which is, this is the example of lentil crops, and this is the crop after threshing. Lentil. You can find this product, and that means the end product, in the market. Next is well seed crops. This is the another field crops, which is mustard. That means sesame, sunflower, then flaxseed. All are well seed crops. This is the picture of mustard crops, and this is the mustard product. Next is fiber crop, which is a field crop. Cotton, jute, all are fiber crop. This is the jute crop in the field, and this is the jute fiber, where the farmer drying the jute fiber after getting from the raw jute. So this is another field crop. Next one is sugar crops. That means sugar beet, date, then sugar cane, and this all about the example of sugar crops. So this is the sugar cane plant in the field, and this is the cutting sugar cane individually. Next one is beverage crops. So what is beverage crops? Tea, coffee is called beverage crops. This is the tea garden. You can observe in the picture, and this is the garden as well. After taking the leaf, dry the leaf like this, and more dry, and then you can get tea from the tea garden. So you have to process that one. You remember, one character is that you cannot eat straight away, or you cannot consume the straight away. After processing that, you have to consume. We can consume the field crop. Next is forage or fodder crops. Fodder crops means, this is fodder crop is fallow, all and other fodder crops name is maize. Fodder crops or forage means this is the feed of livestock. This one is as well as field crops. Next one is green manure crops, which is a field crop. Green manure crop used as a fertilizer, where this is the example of green manure crop, which is dhuncha, and this is the close view of this dhuncha plant. You might seen this one on the village area. So this is all about the example of classification of field crop. Now we will discuss about the concepts of horticulture crop. So what is the horticulture crop? This is the opposite of field crop. That means you can cultivate it, this one, in a small area to large area as well. And highland, you need highland, and even near the homestead area, and crops are basically individually taken care. For example, all type of vegetable crops, all type of fruits crops, all type of flower crops, spices and condiments as well. So that means these type of crops you need to be individually taken care. So this is the example of the horticulture crop product. Like I said, vegetable, this is the vegetable like tomato, etc., broccoli, and fruit crops, this is the fruit. Then flower, this is the flower, and spices, you see, this is the capsicum, chilies, etc. So this is the product of horticulture crop. Characteristics, I told you the characteristics is opposite the horticulture field crop. That means field crop and horticulture is totally opposite. So it can be grown on highland, high to medium land, but not lowland, and it's definitely free from flood as well. They not tolerate flood. That means water, and you can cultivate it that one in the small area as well, like flower, different type of flowers, spices, etc. Exception is potato. Potato can be cultivated in large area. You need to be taken care individually rather than aggregate care. Requires high intensity of intercultural operation. Like you need to take care for interculture, like weeding, pesticide, then medicine, etc. Then harvest, you can harvest it this one after maturity, step by step. Like flower, you cannot harvest flower together, you have to take that step by step. Like when the one flower is matured, you can take that one, then the other one, like this. Even in fruits as well, when the fruits is matured or ripened, that time you collect that one, otherwise you have to leave that one for harvested. So this is the characteristics of horticulture crop. Like neat fence on the field of horticulture crop to protect from the different enemies, as wild animals, human being as well. Price is high when this one in the market. Then horticulture crops can be grown without irrigation, is quite impossible, so you need to irrigate the crop. But in horticulture field crop, the field crop, sometimes some crops can be grown without irrigation, but horticulture product, this is unbelievable. Horticulture crop is seasonal, annual, biennial, and perennial as well. That means when this is biennial and perennial, that times you can get fruit, or you can get product in every year. But in field crop, you cannot do that, and risk is lower than the field crop. Then consumed fresh or without processing. That means, for example, a fruit, a mango, or tomato, you can collect the tomato, you can eat that one, but you do not need to process that one. Fruits plants are of medium or to long stature and large canopy. That means horticulture crops plants sometimes is large branches, leaves as well. So this is all about the characteristics of horticulture crop. Now the classification of horticulture crop. I told you before, all type of vegetables are horticulture crop. About 50 types of vegetable cultivate in our country. This is the picture you see. This is the example of horticulture crop, like vegetable crops like tomato, broccoli, cabbage, ashgourd, the vegetable. This type of these all are carrot, capsicum. These all are vegetable type horticulture crop. Next one is fruit type crops, which is another classification of horticulture crop. About 70 types of fruits variety cultivated, fruits variety species cultivated in our country. That means in Bangladesh. This is the example of fruits variety, which is horticulture crop, like watermelon, then banana, mango, pears, malta, all are horticulture crop. Pineapple. Next one is flower type crops. All type of flower type crops is the example of horticulture crop. About 30 types of flowers earth varieties cultivated in Bangladesh. You see a beautiful bouquet of flower, where I am trying to show you the horticulture flower type horticulture crop is the rose, you see different type of flower. Spices type crops, that means all type of spices is horticulture crop. In our country, about 14 types of horticulture flower spices cultivated in our country, which is, you see, cardamom, cinnamon, garlic, chili, turmeric, etc. Now the important thing is, you might get this type of question in your exam, which is difference between field and horticulture crop, which is, this is the characteristics of field crop and this is the horticulture crop. If the question is like that, explain the characteristics, then you have to write down in I show you previously that way. But if they ask you difference, or if they ask you difference or compare or between, that time you have to draw this table and you have to compare like this, like field crop and horticulture crop. So what is the difference? The difference is can grow in large and in a low medium land and vast area. This one is a small area near homestead and high and high land without free from flood. This one is taken care individual, do not taken care individually, but this one is taken care individually. For example, flower plant, we you need to we always take care individually in front of our house. Generally require less intensity of agriculture operations, but here is higher intensity, uh, harvested at a time all the crops, but here you cannot harvest it at a time. Then no fencing is required, but here is fencing required. A low price at the onset of the season, but here is high price onset of the season. That means the farmer are getting profit in this if he cultivate or he or she cultivate horticulture crop. Then many of the field crops can grow without irrigation, but horticulture crop you need to be apply irrigation. Then maximum generally is annual crops, but generally is one is seasonal, annual, biennial and perennial. Flower is seasonal crops, annual is some crops annual, then perennial is mango, flower, fruits is perennial crops. uh, Cost of production is high, but here is sometimes less cost of production. And here is you can consume straight, you cannot consume straight, you have to process the fruit like drying, threshing, but here you can and consume without processing. And even here is large in horticulture crop, branches and canopy is more and large, but here field crop is not higher, small type of canopy. This is all about the today's lecture. You can get this type of MCQ question from this section, which is how many types of species cultivated in spices cultivated in Bangladesh, which is 14 type of spices, which is a horticulture crop. This type of MCQ you can get this section. Next one is explain the difference between field and horticultural crop, which is I show you at the last. This one is very important for 3 and 4 marks. So this type of question you can get from this section.
My dear students, thank you very much for watching today's online lecture. If you got any problem, contact your subject teacher. They must help you. Thank you very much.